to 2:30?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So if you could share your screen again, Janelle, we'll
Yep.
keep going down. And keep in mind, at the very end of this, we have a whole section that we've already done. So, you know.
Okay. Sorry, I was just getting the live stream up and running.
I think we were on row 22 or 23 when you get to it.
Yeah, we were on,
22.
We were on an Eric Wall comment.
yeah, we were past that, so we were to
Yeah, we're
23.
back there. Yeah.
We were on 23.
There we go. Yep.
Can someone interpret what they think this means?
Yeah.
I looked at it and I think what he's saying is that if there's easements in the buffer, it can conflict with the buffer. And when I went back and looked at it, and I would agree that an easement along a road, you may need to push the buffer back or else you're digging up the buffer at some point. So you need to check where they are. But it does allow, the code does allow underground utilities in a buffer area. And when you have underground utilities, you normally would have an easement, right, Charlie, with it?
Yes, definitely, yeah. If it's outside the right of way.
I'm thinking
And
he's thinking tree plantings in a buffer could be impacted by utility easements.
And tree maintenance too, yeah. Got to trim trees.
Sorry, Charlie, I interrupted.
Yeah, the only other comment I was gonna make is sometimes, like, especially stormwater piping, sometimes can be the responsibility of the HOA and not the Board of Public Works, which then would not require at least a board easement. It may require some sort of, utility easement for the HOA to get in there, but not a board easement.
So again, putting on the perspective of we're designing a major subdivision here. And there's easements maybe already on it or easements to be designed where to place the utilities and where to place the buffers. I think that it's hard to say where the conflicts might be, but you're developing a subdivision and you would hopefully understand where the problem or conflicts would be and then work around it.
I think the onus of doing that is on the applicant.
Yeah,
I think
I
we
guess
just have to.
is there anything we should be modifying in the code about this? I mean, I think we've already got what we need in the code, but or in the draft code,
Yeah,
And if an applicant comes through and says, this buffer is really going to impede this utility line, they can ask for a waiver from the planning commission at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think Parks and Rec will just be a little bit more careful about what type of trees make sense near and around utilities.
yeah. You have to get feedback from BPW too. They'll be the ones that
Right.
have the.
Yeah, typically you want trees to stay 5 feet away from any type of underground utility.
Roots.
Yeah.
Right.
I do.
Okay,
I think you guys are right that when we review the plans, we make comments to that effect. If there's some sort of conflict with a proposed utility line and its easement.
Yeah, and when I look at landscaping plans, I'm usually like, you're on top of a utility, move that tree.
So you know what, I don't want to jump around too much, but based on the comment that Janelle just said, I think we can look right here at number 26 and say, that if we're talking about the size of a planting strip, well, 4 foot would not be large enough based upon the information that you just provided.
Yeah, and I think that planting strip, I think we covered this one when we did trees, because the 8-foot planting strip came as we allowed narrower streets. So there was more space.
Yes.
And again, this is something that somebody can ask a waiver for. So if like they
Yeah.
need like 6 feet, it's something that can be considered.
Yeah.
So I think we're good on 23 or 26, and the next several 20. Sorry, if I look at column A, 24, 25, 26, we covered when we talked about trees. 27, redefine open space. Well, we've covered that in our open space discussion. 28 is just a comment on liking the distinction between intent and required. Now, the next couple on buffer sizes, 29, this is really outside of what we're looking at, right? So
Well,
interesting.
I'm not sure it's outside. The code sets different right of ways, but I don't know that you'd want to have a standard size a consistent one. It's for different types of designs and uses. And I think it's better to have, it may be more complicated, but you end up with better designs by having right of ways that fit that specific purpose.
Okay, I was looking at 29, the please increase buffer sizes.
No, I saw that as blue. Okay, I'm sorry.
So the main buffers we have are buffers adjacent to agricultural lands and buffers along main, the byways.
Mhm.
The buffers around wetlands are not part of this, so I'm not sure which buffer they were talking about. So typically we have 2 main buffers, one that's along the byways, which I think is 20 to 25 feet. I can never remember. And then the one that's adjacent to the agricultural land.
And this is currently a discussion in the city, correct? And being met with, I personally, I'd like to see as much as can be done for buffers in the subdivision code, but I know we have to meet a happy medium to get things moving and through.
Mhm. Joe, any opinion on buffers in this context?
Yeah, it's that please increase buffer sizes is just too generic. I mean,
Mhm.
I think we should stick with what we have and move on.
Okay, then back to you, Tom, on right of way.
Right, the comment was, please standardize right of way use.
That's a
I didn't
donut.
know what that meant.
I originally thought it was right of way sizes, but it's not, it's right of way use. Right of way
Yeah.
use is, I think one thing right of way is saying is no development in the right of way.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's
My
a-
best guess is that it could be regarding encroachments. And that's my-
Oh,
Only guess.
Gotcha.
Right,
about
standardize
that
what you can
one.
do in the right of way, and
That makes
yeah,
some sense. Yeah.
okay.
So
Does the ordinance say what you can do in a right of way? I mean, I don't think it does. It just,
I don't
it's
think it
linked.
does. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
isn't the
the
whole
issue,
point that you're not supposed to do anything in it? I mean,
yeah, that's exactly right. I mean,
that's why
it is standardized. You're not allowed to do anything in it, but it's not always treated that way.
Right.
and that's why we have setbacks.
Right.
yeah, this seems more like an enforcement and historic practices comment than. Okay, shall we
Right.
move on to the next one?
Mhm.
Stormwater management should not be located in existing floodplain.
Why not?
Sometimes it's actually the best place for it.
Hmm.
But that's up to you guys.
Well, the thing to remember is that when a stormwater management system is designed, it's designed against an expected waterhead at the discharge point of the stormwater management device. So that's all calculated and figured into the design. So it doesn't matter whether it's in a floodplain or outside of floodplain, whatever headwater is up against that stormwater management device discharge is calculated into the design.
Mhm.
And it must work, otherwise it won't get approved.
Charlie, you're saying this could actually be counterproductive, that requirement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like Janelle says, oftentimes the lowest portion, you want the stormwater management in the lowest portion of the parcel.
Mhm. Well, and
Charlie,
I think
Charlie, you would review the overall height of the stormwater management pond too, to see that it would not be overtopped in the floodplain. You would know the approximate height of the flood, and you would see that the retention pond would be higher than that. You would check those heights.
The state requirement is that for 100-year floodplain as designated by FEMA, that there must be some discharge capability of the stormwater management device that does not create damage to the surrounding properties. So that's
Okay.
already factored into the either SCD or DNREC review. What I like to do when I do them is determine what that 100-year floodplain level is, and then run what we call a tailwater analysis back into all the catch basins on the roads to see if it will flood or not.
Okay. To see if it backs up and floods, comes out of the catch basins.
Yeah,
Layman's terms. Okay.
Yeah.
okay. I appreciate those layman's terms, Joe.
All right.
Okay, I think we're okay on this one. Better standard for how much traffic a 20-foot wide road can carry before increasing width.
Oh.
Yeah.
Any
could we
comment
ask-
from our experts on this?
Well,
Well-
is it just width?
Or proposed reducing the road width.
But
And
not the
maybe
amount
there's
of traffic. I'm sorry, Tom.
And maybe there's concerns that we need to set some standard of what happens if the traffic is higher.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure. I mean, the idea is to balance the road width with all the other concerns about speed and runoff and other things. If you
And also
build into it that
parking
you
on
would-
one side.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
Yeah,
sidewalk.
the whole creation of it was actually creating a new, a more progressive design standard, correct? Like that was the whole motivation behind this.
Yeah.
So
And
I
is
think
that-
that people might interpret this as, well, we're going to let them have 20-foot roads so the builders can build more, but that isn't really it at all.
Correct.
And so I that could have been the thinking behind this question. So perhaps this might just be something that during the public hearing, we might be prepared to address and explain better.
Remember
So
that
Yeah.
the 20-foot wide street is only applicable to a development of 4 units per acre
Right.
or less than 4 units per acre. So already the traffic count's going to be lower.
I guess I read this as also possibly a concern that you have a development of that size, but a road going through it that connects with 2 other major roads. But suddenly, I'm trying to picture whether, according to our designs, this could ever happen, where you'd have a a major road that you could, you know, 4-lane or road that people would be turning onto a 20-foot wide road that then connects with another 4-lane road. And the concern being that you'd have a lot of traffic going through there and it becomes a bottleneck.
Yeah, I actually do want to address that comment as it relates to interconnection with other developments. Like if we have one of these 20-foot wide roads, but we're going into an old 32-foot wide road, what that transition looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was more concerned with, Nancy, than say 20 foot to a 4-lane road. I don't think that we would allow a 20-foot wide road if had to go right up against a 4-lane road of any sort.
Yeah,
You kind of narrow it down as it comes through, kind of, right? So you
Yeah.
can kind of-
Yeah, but I think I probably need to add some language to the proposed code reflecting that. That was a
Did we-
good comment I received I think actually during the public workshop.
Yeah.
Did we also look at the minimum the fire marshal requires for road width?
Yeah, I think I did. Let me
Okay.
double check that. Yeah, let me double check that. I don't think they have a problem with 20 feet. It has to do with the turning analysis of the big fire trucks.
Perfect. I was just triple checking.
Yeah, let me check it though.
Somehow I picture a 20-foot wide road leading into a cul-de-sac. That's not having any through traffic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Big residential area for turnaround with a cul-de-sac at the end.
Yeah.
It's possible.
So Charlie, you'll check on this in terms of fire
Yes.
marshal and also in terms of the transition.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next one is suggest preferred traffic calming measures.
When I looked at
Oh,
this,
road widths?
yeah, when I looked at it, I know that in our guidelines, we refer to the complete streets DelDOT manual that has a lot of different options for traffic calming.
The bump outs and the bulbs.
Right.
Okay.
And
at, like,
I don't know if
intersection.
they're looking for us to prioritize them or say which ones would work or not. It's kind of hard to tell until you see a design of which ones are better. But the term preferred was interesting about which I think we're saying that they can be useful, but I'm not sure that we can say which ones are preferred over other ones. Unless
I would say speed limit signs. That's a starting
But-
point.
And
I also
enforcement?
Yeah, I also think that we've addressed it just in the technicalities of the revised code in that the narrower streets and the shorter radiuses at turns promote lower speed limits. And
Yeah,
I'm with
I'm
Tom. Traffic calming measures. DelDOT has a whole book on traffic calming measures, but one doesn't apply to every situation. You have to kind of see what the situation is.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a one size fits all, so, yeah. Are we okay with leaving this the way it is and with our reference to DelDOT's options and? Okay, the next few
Yes, they're nodding
comments.
heads, yes.
Okay, good. Row 34 is just a positive comment. 35, we're back on open space that we've discussed. Same with the usable. Well, this is usable should be outside any environmental buffer.
So the only environmental buffer we have is the wetland buffer. And it has permitted uses within zone A and zone B of that buffer.
Okay. And I don't think it's our purview to start rewriting the buffer code. Okay, another comment on usable space and on trees and on non-invasive species. We've covered these. And we're back to utility, easements and buffer requirements we've just discussed. Tree, we're back to, I think we've discussed all of these tree comments at our last meeting. Yeah, we're in the 40s now, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're up to outdoor lighting and Kelvin scales.
Okay.
Tom's favorite.
My
Any,
favorite as well.
yeah. I have to say, after reading a lot back and forth on this, I'm kind of leaning towards the 2,700. My concern is, I think there are commercial situations where the 3,000 in certain parking lots may make sense.
So I think you have the option of doing a commercial standard and a residential standard.
Okay,
And I think that solves the concerns,
mhm,
if you like that concept.
Yeah, certainly for this, though, it seems to me that the 2,700 is more natural.
mhm. Do we agree then on 2,700 for residential and 3,000 for commercial?
Sounds good.
Okay,
I do, because the electrical engineer is probably going to do a foot candle analysis of the entire road area or parking area or whatever it is that we're talking about, to make sure that there's enough light, no matter what the Kelvin rating is of the bulb.
mhm.
Yep.
Okay, now we're back to trees and street trees. We've covered these. If we can keep scrolling down, Janelle, till we get to something that isn't trees.
Now we're down to rings comments, which I think Charlie said he'd already looked at, but
Mhm.
tell me how you guys want to work with these.
Yeah, I think we've covered, I mean, I think this
Yeah.
is looking at the old code. And so the cul-de-sac we did a lot on.
So I can go through them, and if I see something that I think really needs to be, that might revise our updated code, I'll bring it to your attention tomorrow.
Okay,
So
so
that
we're
brings
down
us,
to,
Yeah, this is going back to, I don't think this is even relevant personally.
Where are we at?
the cul-de-sac length of the length of a dead-end street.
67.
If we're talking about, I live on one of those streets and it's not ideal. It may be ideal for residents, but it's certainly not ideal for emergencies on Harbor View Road to have a cul-de-sac that long with that many homes on it. I don't think it's ideal under present, what we know today and present practices. Having 50 homes.
Yeah, I think they're just asking, I think what they're saying is 200's too short, but what's the happy medium? Because the state fire marshal is 300. So would the city be willing to increase it to 300, and then you have to have the turnaround?
what do we have right now in the, on the length of a cul-de-sac?
200.
And how do we determine the 200? Why would we want to increase it? What would be the benefit of increasing it?
So right now, if we have lots that are 75 feet in width, and you have, that's 3 lots is, let me make that sure that I did that right. Yeah, 3 lots is at 225 feet. So you're getting 2 houses on a dead end street, and then you need a waiver
Hey, Janelle,
for a cul-de-sac.
Well,
Yep.
if I look at like Pilot Town, for example, if I look at throughout Pilot Town Village going up Ocean View Boulevard, with many, many, many little cul-de-sacs off of Ocean View Boulevard, isn't that about the depth of those? And
I
they're
don't
easy-
know. I do know in the last 2 years, there have been a number of waivers granted for roads to exceed 200 feet in length for a dead end.
Hey,
street.
Janelle?
Yep.
This is Charlie. I actually did revise it to 300 feet to match the state fire marshal because of
Okay.
all those things. If you look at F underneath cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, that's what I just looked up too, Charlie, because I thought we had made it to match the state fire marshal. So I think
Yeah.
we've actually met this comment in terms of being consistent with the state fire marshal's recommendation.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah,
Sorry
Okay, then we
about
have-
the confusion there.
Street width,
there we go.
and that was based on the old code, not the current, right?
Yeah.
So that we've addressed. Okay, next few comments are positive comments on what we've done. And then more general comments. I think these are okay. Keep going down. Now, this is the question about permeable. That's being covered elsewhere. I thought that that the city's evaluating this. Do we know when, Janelle, when we're going to kind of get some final?
So it was originally proposed with the source water to have a definition, and that was removed. So I'm not sure where we are at with the definition of permeable materials.
We
They
are,
wanted to take a step back from that one. So I think we still need to look at that.
though, at this point, it's under exploration. And we're, as a city, kind of moving in that direction. Would you say that's a fair assessment? So I don't know why we would incentivize it if it's going to become a standard.
I don't know if it's gonna be an incentive or a standard. I think that really falls into the zoning code and maybe not the subdivision code. I think the
Right.
only
Yeah.
part that would fall into the subdivision code is in the street design standards for the construction of the main subdivision roads, which I think
Okay.
Charlie already put something in there to recognize.
That's
It-
already in there, I think,
Yep.
yeah.
I've
I
got
think if I look
specs
at
in
these, I actually had coded these in blue, meaning they concern other sections of the code. So the same with lot coverage, and there's more on impervious. Keep going. Then we have, now we're down to, 1 minute before 2:30. I think we're almost completely done. So maybe if we can just deal with these next two comments, because then we're back into trees.
Okay.
One question was having, we talk about the pre-application meeting, and this is a comment that came forward at the workshop. I was sensing this like discomfort with meetings going on that aren't in the public purview. And
Yes.
the pre-application meeting is one where people are just understanding, how to apply and what needs to be provided.
I
Thoughts on
think,
this?
honestly, I think that people are afraid, of promises or, of being made, and which of course would be completely outside of the purview of anyone who would be involved in it, and ethically just could not happen. But I think that's the fear.
I mean,
Is there
those sorts of meetings go on all the time. I represent applicants in other contexts. I mean, that's just part of like giving sitting down with the planner and saying, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And the planner is able to say, here's 10 reasons why the code prohibits it. Or I don't see anything, maybe you should go forward with an application. I don't know of anything. I mean, that is such a common practice and there's nothing untoward about it. I mean, I would hate to say that Janelle can never answer her phone and to answer a question from a potential applicant.
Yeah, and
What's going on? Yeah, my thought was,
I'll show you.
Ouch.
What?
I don't know, I just needed Nancy for a minute because I think she's got something else going on.
yeah, I was going to add a comment too. I think what we would not want to see happen would be for every single discussion to get up to planning commission level. And we don't want applications coming through that are not appropriate. And so the pre-application meeting is going to is an essential is a good step.
Yeah, I think it's an effective use of time. If you don't have them, then you're trying to iron out details and you say, why wasn't this coordinated before the public meeting?
And you also have people investing money where they shouldn't and giving people an opportunity to dig their heels in to something that should never, have gotten that far.
Yeah, typically the way I've done and seen others do it is like, Charlie and I would meet with an applicant and Charlie would go, this is where your water and sewer areas are. This is where you're going to have to run your lines. I'll like, hey, don't forget about your sidewalks. Don't forget about, this. It's like, oh, that layout, your lots don't meet the lot size. It's finding the big red flags and just providing, okay, this is your process. This is your next step is to make the application. And then, so they know where they are in the process.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act. If you have staff who can carry forward the ideas and point things out like an engineer and a planner, I think if you have faith in them that they're representing you, that you need to have the ability for them to meet with people and, as Glenn said, pick up their phone and address things before it's coming forward. And I think most people who are professionals are knowing what types of topics they can address in that setting, which is mostly process and getting it going versus decisions or discussions about things that need to be decided by the planning commission.
The more that I'm seeing here, I kind of recall this discussion at the workshop. And if I recall correctly, where this was coming from was something like, couldn't we possibly have, a planning commission member attend each one of the, I don't know if it would be voluntarily. And that's, I don't necessarily have an issue with that if that's something that, that stakeholders really want. It's just, do we have a provision? Like, how would we manage that? We would just, a monthly planning meeting, ask for volunteers to attend a meeting. I don't really know how that would work.
So typically the way a pre-application meeting happens is somebody goes, hey, Janelle, I've got an application. It's like, okay, we schedule a meeting. Maybe it's later that day. Maybe it's later that week.
Right.
We talk and it's like, okay, don't forget your fee. Don't forget your application form. Remind them that don't forget you're in the floodplain. You have to fill out those, or, you're in the historic district or something. It's kind of really high level, trying to address any red flags. So it doesn't get to be, you guys don't end up seeing something that, there's a major issue with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
I'm not
that
sure.
people-
I kind of, there's part of me that still though thinks, how could we, I trust that that's the content of those meetings. Truly, I do. And how could we somehow provide some sort of framework so that our staff was not getting questioned? How could we? And do you know where I'm coming from on this? Is that clear?
I'm
We
not
can
sure
ask for-
that are
Go
you
ahead,
ever
Nancy.
going to be able to avoid staff ever getting any questions, you know, because, but I mean, to me, the key thing is that there are no commitments that can be made in those meetings that don't, you know, that aren't reviewed in the public light, okay? So, I mean, I think those meetings should be meetings where you're just being told, no, you know, here's the form you have to fill out. And yes, you need to provide this and, you know, those kinds of things. But then all of this comes to the Planning Commission and to City Council and is reviewed and you know, we have a requirement for 2 public hearings.
And-
There
and
isn't
just keep-
anything that could be committed to that the Planning Commission or City Council couldn't have a different point of view on.
And just keep in mind that we've set it up to encourage the developers to reach out to us preliminarily so that we can address a lot of those mechanical issues that sometimes make a meeting at the planning commission level, you know, just not worthwhile or getting bogged down on a technical point that we don't want to happen.
And I think sometimes it's identifying those waivers they need to get ahead of time, so then they don't have to come back and ask for them.
I think it's also identifying, I mean, if I think as a member of the public, you know, a frustration I've heard from many people is that they, you know, they review something before a meeting and it's incomplete information. And this is trying to make sure that that we have the most complete information to be reviewed, not just by the Planning Commission, but by members of the public in advance of of a public hearing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, we've used at this point due diligence by discussing this topic. I understand where the question comes from. It's a question I've heard more than once, but I think this committee has decided, or this subcommittee has decided that this is a good step that actually helps the process and justified it. And so I think at this point, we either decide that we are going to stick with that or not. And I personally, I am for sticking with that pre-meeting. I think it's a good idea.
Mhm. Joe, your view?
Yeah, pre-meeting is good. I'd like to attend.
I'm open to
I'm-
attend too. You know, Janelle, if you want a planning commission person to attend, I think you can just always reach out to us and ask us. Hopefully in person.
Yes.
And but
Wait a
At
minute.
some point, we'll get back to person.
Yeah, messed up.
Okay,
So are we okay
83.
leaving it the way it is? Okay,
I am okay.
okay. Can we scroll down past all the trees stuff? Because I think we've done those. The next 2 are outside our purview, so.
Wait, how about 34? Did we get that? Or where was it? Not 34, was it 84?
80.
84. Nope. Okay, no, it was the one above it. Did we get?
It's,
That-
I think,
I
Go
don't think
ahead,
we have
Nancy.
control over the BPW stormwater fee.
No,
We
I
do
don't
not.
either.
No.
So that's it. So we're past that. That one is
Yeah.
irrelevant. All right. And the affordable housing question,
Yeah, it's not,
What does number 13 say way back?
it wouldn't be comment 13, it would be, oh, it would be, they're talking about the 23 points.
they're talking about the 23 points and we said that for affordable housing, in our crosswalk on that, what did we say?
we pretty much, we all agreed that,
Mhm.
if I am not mistaken, that it's a non-starter in the city of Lewis. Let's be real, it's, as much as we would like to address this, and we were just discussing it in reviewing the comp plan, that due to a lot of factors, we're gonna have to think a little broader on quality affordable housing, because the cost of land here in the city prohibits it from happening here.
Yeah.
So I think that, did we decide that it didn't really have much of a role in a subdivision application?
So I think we looked at housing in a broader context.
Yeah,
Than just calling it affordable housing. So I think that entire section, we just took as a broader complex when we were looking at housing and housing types and encouraging different types of
And
materials
Yeah,
and format.
and we encourage diversity of housing types. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
but as we've learned, even with Dutchman's Harvest, it's challenging to ensure something is affordable and will remain affordable. So,
and it's not going to be affordable.
Yeah.
We haven't defined affordable. We haven't even
Yeah.
defined workforce. So I think this is probably not the place for it, but I think it needs to be addressed somewhere else. But I don't think here is the place. I think that's kind of where,
I think
what
you're
would
right.
others say on this topic?
Deborah, you're bringing back the discussions we had before of not in the subdivision ordinance, if anywhere in the comprehensive plan, which does refer to state standards about what affordable housing is and workforce housing, and then comes up with strategies, but it doesn't, it's really creating the opportunity. You can't really say where it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. It's just creating the opportunity.
right.
Let's be real, it's not going to happen east of Route 1.
I
Not
think there's
anymore.
a slide back here, to mention the fact that with us annexing the Smith Mobile Home Park, we are basically incorporating right now affordable housing. It is a trailer park within city limits. Once Board of Public Works completes their running of utilities to there to eliminate the septic system, Donovan Smith is going to look a lot more attractive for either replacement homes or new homes on sites that were never used because they lack the septic system. So Donovan Smith is a potential source of low-income housing or affordable housing within the city limits in the near future. So we have that going for us.
Okay.
Good point, Joe.
Okay.
And then it looks like the rest of the comments are all from Marty. So it looks like we got through the list.
We
Wow.
have done it, which is great. And
Congratulations.
it means, yay, it means that tomorrow we can focus on reviewing any updated versions that we have. And then specifically, I want to make sure we focus tomorrow on our plan for the public hearing.
Great.
When do we have to post something, Janelle, for a public hearing?
Already posted it.
I mean, the updated draft and all. Did we?
Oh, the sooner the better. I just need a clean version.
Okay.
I'll need it 7 days in advance to post on the agenda.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, we could talk about that more tomorrow. It could be what we could post is as complete of a draft as we can. And if there's items that still need work, we have a bullet list of these things need to be or still being considered. But we could talk about that more tomorrow.
Hey, Tom, don't forget those are calendar days too.
Very good, Joe.
And just a
Okay.
last minute request. Who has the latest iteration draft? There's so many drafts. Tom, are you the one who has that? I'm just wondering if we can just get the document that we're going to be working with tomorrow sent out again. So we're working with the right one.
I still have the one from the original workshop that I haven't, everything else is in this worksheet that needs to be blended into it.
Okay, okay. Because we
Well,
had several versions going on there too.
Mhm. I wonder if it would be helpful. I mean, I guess the question is whether, Tom, you start putting these changes into the full document, or whether we still keep these separate and kind of do a final approval as, you know, and then switch them in. Because I'd like to make sure I can identify what, when I get a new document, what's been changed. And by that, I mean, what's been changed since the document we shared. I think it's, do you remember the date on that? It's the one that, it's the last draft
November.
version that's posted on our public site.
It's like the 18th or something of
I think
November. It's something, it's in the teens of November. Because
Mhm.
the next version that I need is just the clean draft version.
Mhm.
Because I need to get working on the ordinance. Because the way the short title is to delete and replace chapter 170 in its entirety.
Yeah.
So if it's 7 days ahead of the hearing, which is the 15th,
The 8th.
the 8th. So can I look at it? I mean, I'm pretty sure it can be done. I just, maybe when we reconvene tomorrow, I can have a better
Mhm.
idea of what that all means. And do you want, I think the other question is, do you want us to take the one from November, which has all of the changes in it, and put all these into that, or do you want us to start with a new one after the workshop? And so that you're only looking at these changes, not the changes from when we started in May or whatever.
I would prefer only to look at these changes because we have the copy on the 18th that we can go to see the old changes. And quite frankly, so much of it is changed that it, you know.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a different, varying opinion on that?
No.
Okay. And if people could for tomorrow also, if you can just think of, I'm doing a draft of like what we present at this public hearing. And I think we have a sense from the workshop, what were the areas that people had the most comments on. And we probably want to go in a little more depth on those areas at the public hearing. But if you have any other thoughts on areas that we need to emphasize or de-emphasize.
One of them is that the pre-meeting that people just aren't understanding. Seems to me that standing out from the comments today while they're fresh, people have questions about buffers, which is not in our purview. They have questions about the pre-meeting, which I've heard also people asking in the community. Anything else jump out at people while we have it fresh?
I think open space, they still have some
Yes.
questions on, and the
Trees a lot, but only from a couple of people, but I think they're all really good comments to get right.
Easements,
Yes.
easements versus right of ways too. Clarify that.
Versus
Yeah.
buffers and their place in and their relationship with buffers.
Okay.
Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so we will be back together tomorrow.
11 a.m.
And Nancy, you're doing all this while driving home from New York City or something?
I'm currently parked, but
Oh.
you were not aware of a somewhat dangerous. I was driving and pulled over, and we switched drivers at the side of of 95. So
Oh, okay,
Ah,
okay.
all
Okay.
is well.
Congratulations,
Good.
everyone's safe, we're all well, so.
Yeah,
Great.
good.
All
Okay.
right, so are
See
we
you
good for
tomorrow at
tomorrow then?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, see everybody tomorrow.
We're good.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.